Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. On the road to Konoha present day. Poor kid, the girl he likes blames him for her father's death. Shizune had been sniffling since Jiraiya had told that part of the story. I'm more concerned about the poison. When did it stop? You weren't clear on that. By this point, the only reason Tsunade was going back to Konoha was for the kid. It took them 3 years to realize that they made him immune to poison in the first month. Jiraiya was grinning at this. After all, being immune to poisons was a huge plus for ninja. After a while, Naruto stopped caring. We were lucky all the real assassins had been warned off by Zabuza. Apparently the person who sent him after Naruto had broken a major rule by giving him false and misleading information. What about that shy girl you mentioned, the one with the obvious crush on him? Did he ever notice her? Or did the pink-haired girl stop hating him? Shizune seemed particularly interested in Naruto's love life. Jiraiya was proud. How long was the Uchiha in the academy for? I'd think they'd let him graduate after a year, 2 at the most. Actually, that's an important part of the story. Konoha. 4 years, 8 months, 19 days ago. After the incident with the 50 Ryo coin, Naruto's relationship with Sasuke turned into a full-blown rivalry. Each trying to prove that they were the better ninja, they sought to outdo each other in everything. Their taijutsu spars were the stuff of legends in the academy. Eventually it became impossible for the teachers to declare a victory, although Naruto and Sasuke seemed to have some way of keeping score themselves. The battles would start as soon as the bell rang and only end when class was over. As time went on, their individual strengths and weakness became clear. Sasuke was much faster than Naruto, and every fight he seemed to get faster still. After a few months it was rare for Naruto to get the first hit, and by the end of the year, Naruto would only land 3 or 4 blows. But that was all Naruto needed to land, because what Naruto lacked in speed, he made up in raw physical power. Sasuke was good at reading his opponent's movements, even those of someone as unpredictable as Naruto. Naruto was good at improvising, making up complex plans on the fly, changing from one plan of attack to another as soon as Sasuke figured out what he was doing. Naruto was a stamina monster. After the first 3 fights where Naruto beat Sasuke simply by outlasting him, Sasuke worked on becoming more and more efficient in his attacks and defense, always moving the least amount needed to avoid a blow, never throwing a punch or kick unless he was sure that it would do some damage, or as a part of a plan. Sasuke took his, comparatively, tiny pool of stamina and stretched it as far as it would go. In the second year at the academy, they began learning the basics of ninjutsu. Naruto had a lot more experience than Sasuke, especially when it came to actual jutsu, but Sasuke was a natural, his fingers longer, thinner and more flexible than Naruto's. He quickly used his natural speed and flexibility to catch up to, and then surpass Naruto in terms of hand seal fluidity, allowing him to theoretically fire more jutsu off faster than Naruto. Naruto's physical stamina carried over to his chakra as well. While Sasuke could cast more in a short period of time, Naruto could keep casting long after Sasuke died of chakra exhaustion. There were 2 areas that Sasuke had a clear lead over Naruto in: Genjutsu, which Naruto lacked all but the most basic skills in, and the actual schoolwork. Naruto was still having difficulty with written tests. He would read questions wrong, put answers down in the wrong spot, or just completely blank out. The fact that Sasuke had him beat in these 2 things drove Naruto nuts, and ensured that Sasuke kept the number 1 spot in the class. Sakura had changed the most, but not in a good way. After the shock of finding out that Naruto had a hand in her father's death, she seemed listless for weeks, before seemingly deciding that the best way to get Naruto back for the pain he caused her was to devote herself to his eternal rival Sasuke, becoming one of his many fangirls, always cheering the loudest when Naruto lost, punching him if he tried to talk to her, and ignoring him the rest of the time. It was official, Hinata hated Sakura. At first it was just a little jealousy, because Naruto liked Sakura and barely seemed to notice her, but after Sakura trampled Naruto's heart in the mud, she wanted to kill her. If only she had his confidence, maybe there was something she could do about that. Shikamaru and Choji were largely unchanged, still the same middle of the road average. And neither of them were really interested in being more than that. Konoha. 3 years, 4 months, 2 days ago. Sasuke was frustrated no matter how hard he tried. Naruto was always right behind him, always pushing, never letting him rest on his laurels. And worst of all, despite their similar painful pasts, he was always cheerful. It drove Sasuke mad. Why were they so different, and how was Naruto so strong if he was so happy? Sasuke had given up everything in his quest for vengeance, and Naruto seemed dead set on proving that you could be happy and strong at the same time. So Sasuke found himself stuck following Naruto around in an attempt to find out just what Naruto's secret was. So far Naruto had just wandered around Konoha for an hour, only stopping to eat a prodigious amount of ramen. Is this all he does? How is he so strong if he doesn't actually train? Sasuke mumbled under his breath. It's not his training time for another 37 minutes and 45 seconds. Sasuke nearly jumped a foot when he heard a soft voice directly behind him. Hinata, are you following me? No, Naruto. Something she had said just clicked in Sasuke's mind. I have to say, the fact that you Naruto's schedule down to the second is creepy. He has the same schedule every day, it's not hard. Normally you stutter a lot more. Naruto isn't HH here, Hinata said, blushing crimson. I see, so what does he do next? He goes to training ground 0. Follow me. Hinata led Sasuke after Naruto. Sasuke was impressed. She followed him like a ghost. Sasuke wasn't even sure that he would ever notice her if she was following him. Eventually they came to a blasted wasteland that stretched from one edge of training ground 7 to a ravine almost half a mile away. The fact that Sasuke couldn't remember anything like this being on the maps of Konoha he had seen was lost by what filled the training ground. There were hundreds of Narutos grouped into 10s and 20s, each group doing something different. So, what did we learn today, guys? Naruto spoke to his copies. You all know the drill. Disperse in groups of 10 with 10-second breaks in between. Naruto sat down in a meditative pose as the copies dispersed. Half an hour later, when the last group disappeared in a puff of smoke, Naruto stood up. Oh, so that's what I was doing wrong. Okay, now that problem's solved, let's get to work on the next bit, yeah. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Once again there were hundreds, if not thousands, of Narutos in the field. Alright guys, get back to work. A Bunshin Jutsu. That's Naruto's worst jutsu. Sasuke stayed the entire time Naruto was there, watching him, trying to figure out what drove him. He came back twice a week. Konoha. 2 years, 11 months, 17 days ago. Uchiha Sasuke was nervous, and he hated being nervous. The civilian council had summoned him to its chambers for an important meeting. But the council wasn't here. Instead of the usual 20 members of the civilian council, there were only 3. At the head of the table sat the 3 elders. In the center was the bandaged Shimura Danzo, whose lone cold eye sent shivers up Sasuke's spine. On his right was the bearded and bespectacled Mitokado Homura. On Danzo's left was the sour-faced Utatane Kaharu. Sasuke couldn't figure out what he'd done to get summoned by the elders. We called you here to discuss your outstanding success in the academy, Danzo began, his voice flat and emotionless. We wish to invite you to join a special subgroup of Anbu. Of course you will graduate at the top of your class, you need not worry about getting the Rookie of the Year award. Kaharu reassured Sasuke. You may take the Chunin exams at later date if you're not satisfied with a field promotion. By joining you are not disqualifying yourself from anything. Homura said in a bland, bored voice. Sasuke blinked in shock. They wanted him to join Anbu. He must be doing something right. Itachi was 13 when he joined Anbu and he was only 9. But he only really started to get strong because of Naruto. What if it was Naruto that made him strong? Does this offer apply to Uzumaki Naruto as well? Academically, he's not that far behind me, and we're pretty evenly matched in terms of skill. He's slightly better at taijutsu while I hold the edge with ninjutsu. If you think I'm worth recruiting, surely Naruto is as well. If his rivalry with Naruto was the secret to his growth, he wouldn't give it up for the world. Unfortunately, no, it does not. And even if it did, his guardian has made his desires very clear to us. Naruto is to stay in the academy until he graduates at a normal age. Danzo answered for the council. His unnaturally cold voice gave Sasuke the creeps. Then I am afraid I must decline your generous offer. What? Koharu screeched, jumping up from her seat. What does that demon have to do with advancing your career? From the power you so clearly desire. My rivalry with Naruto has taught me a few important lessons. Do you know how he got to be as good as he is? I asked his sensei, Jiraiya-sama, one day, what Naruto's secret was. Do you know what he said? Hard work and lots of it. I followed him one day to see just how hard he trained. Did you know he uses a technique that would kill anyone else to maximize his training? He uses 2000 kage bunshin to practice what he knows, and he does this every day before the academy, and he can still outlast me in any chakra-related exercise. The council watched silently as the revenge-obsessed boy raved about his rival. Homura and Koharu shared a look and a thought, is he gay? Seemingly ignoring the odd looks the council gave him, Sasuke continued, that's one thing I learned, just from watching him, the value of hard work. Before I met him I thought I was a hard worker, but I never seemed to get stronger. After sparring with Naruto on a regular basis and seeing how his strength grew too, I realized something else, something that you want to take away from me. Iron sharpens iron. Without Naruto to push me, I won't get stronger. Sasuke stood up and walked out of the council room. Did he just turn us down? Homura blinked in shock. We really need to remove Naruto if we want to proceed with our plans. Why don't we kill him ourselves? Koharu grumbled. Sure. He seems to be immune to poison, probably because of that damn fox, but I bet he's not immune to beheading. No, that would be too obvious. Then we would have to deal with Jiraiya, and he's already snooping around, Homura pointed out. I will deal with them myself. Danzo's cold voice brought the conversation to an end. Road to Konoha, present day. Jiraiya, how do you know all that? Surely you weren't there during their conversation. You aren't just making things up now, are you? Tsunade was skeptical about his information on the Elder Council's meeting, especially the bit after Sasuke left. I'm a spy master. Almost nothing goes on in Konoha without me knowing about it. Jiraiya-sama, why didn't you stop the poisonings yourself then? Just because I know who's doing it doesn't mean I have enough physical evidence to stop them. Besides, I didn't want to make martyrs out of them by just killing them myself. I needed a court to find them guilty, to show others that Konoha considers it a crime to poison children, no matter what they hold inside of them. So what happened next? Well, I guess the next really important thing happens just before the start of Naruto's last year in the academy. Konoha. 1 year, 11 months, 9 days ago. Hey, Ero Sennin, what are we doing all the way out here? Well kid, since you finally mastered your nature transformation, and are about to start your final year in the academy, I thought a celebration was in order. Okay, but that doesn't explain the ginormous barrel of sake you're carrying. Well, it's part of your gift. I hope you don't expect me to actually drink that much sake. I could bathe in it if you wanted. You'll see. Just wait till we get to the top of this hill. A few minutes later they came to a large clearing on the large flat top of the hill. It was bisected by a large waterfall and surrounded by trees. Ah, here we are. It's out of the way enough to be private, but it also overlooks the second best peeping spot in the whole village. Crossing his arms, Naruto scowled at his sensei. I seriously hope you don't expect me to join you in watching the women bathing, you pervert. I'm no pervert. I'm a super pervert. I know, we've had this conversation before, Naruto interrupted Jiraiya before he could get going. Now, what are we here for, Ero Sennin? Placing the large sake barrel he had been carrying over his shoulder on the ground, Jiraiya said, "Pay attention, this is part of your gift." Jiraiya bit his thumb, drawing blood, and began to form hand seals, calling the name of each one as he made them. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, ram, kuchioyse no jutsu. Slamming his hands on the ground, Jiraiya summoned Gamma, keeper of the Toad summoning scroll, and Jiraiya's good friend. This is the summoning scroll for the Toad contract. I believe it's time for you to sign the contract like your father before you. Congratulations, you've earned it. Ever since Jiraiya-sensei, Naruto would never admit to thinking of him like that, had summoned that large scroll. Naruto's eye itched. Now if it was his right eye, the one with the purple band in his iris, he wouldn't be surprised, but this was his left eye, the normal one, and as the itching grew to a burning, Naruto became worried. It's making my eye itch, are you sure it's a good idea? I can't see how it could hurt. Now bite your thumb and write your name in blood on the contract, then make a hand print of your right hand underneath your name. Jiraiya unfurled the scroll to the first empty spot, right underneath the name of Naruto's father, Namikaze Minato. Seeing his father's name, Naruto swallowed and approached the scroll, still ignoring the burning in his eye. Naruto bit his thumb and wrote his name, all the while his eye was burning. As he made his hand print, 3 red tears fell from his eye, landing right next to his hand print. Bringing his left hand to his face, he brushed the moisture from his cheek. I'm crying tears of blood again, I wonder what it means, Naruto thought. Hey, Ero-sensei, is something wrong with my eye? Naruto turned to Jiraiya and looked at him with now matching eyes. Your left eye matches your right eye now, kid. Jiraiya stared at Naruto's now matching multicolored eyes. The first time his eye changed when he was nearly killed, but his second eye changed when he signed a contract scroll. And that color, why do they remind me of? No, it can't be, I'm imagining things, Jiraiya thought to himself. Out loud he said, put as much chakra into the summoning as you can. I want you to summon Gamabunta, the Toad boss, on your first try. The sake is for him, to commemorate you signing the contract. Naruto bit his thumb, made the hand seals, slammed his hands on the ground and tried to force as much chakra as he could into the summoning. Oddly, he felt nothing. No matter how much chakra he poured into the jutsu, nothing seemed to happen. His chakra just seemed to swirl around, going nowhere. Just as he was about to admit defeat and ask Jiraiya what he was doing wrong, Jiraiya spoke from behind him. KK kid, JJ, just how much CHCH chakra did you put into that? Noticing Jiraiya's stutter, Naruto felt a ball of dread grow in his stomach. Turning around and looking up, Naruto's jaw dropped. They were surrounded by toads. Hundreds and hundreds of toads, from tiny tadpoles to the mighty Gamabunta. Every toad on Mount Myoboku must have been summoned here. Mouth opening and closing like a fish, Naruto finally managed to squeak out a single, oops. We're going to need more sake, Jiraiya croaked. Ah, Jiraiya, it seems you have found him at last, a giant, wrinkled, gray-brown toad with squinted eyes and a large, oddly shaped square hat and a necklace with the kanji for oil on it was the first to speak. Are you sure? What are you doing here? Surely he couldn't have summoned all of you. Jiraiya stared at the surrounding toads, wondering just what had happened. The call we answered was both more ancient and binding than the one written in the scroll. What do you mean? Naruto managed to stutter out. Walker of many roads, you bear the gift of the one who made us long ago. When you call, we are honor bound to answer you. No blood or chakra may be taken from you to summon us, young summoner. All you need to know is how to summon us, information contained in the seals on the scrolls of summoning. Find the scrolls, sign them, and the summons bound to the scroll will answer you. Any summon will obey you, even if you haven't signed its scroll. But, the Ogama Sennin raised its voice, remember this, for the long journey ahead. There are many roads often tread lying before you. Ignore them and make your own path. Break the cycle. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Free us from the chains of hate encircling the world. The Ogama Sennin closed his eyes and drifted off. Soon he was snoring peacefully. Does he just fall asleep like that often? Naruto wondered out loud. Only after he's gotten himself worked up over something. Brat, a large rust-colored toad, with a scar next to one eye and bright red markings around his eyes, lips and the top of his head. He was wearing a blue happy coat, with a Tonto-style blade sheathed at his hip and a pipe the length of a 3-story building hung from one corner of his mouth. Name's Gamabunta, Bunta for short. I'm the Toad Boss. I see you brought some sake, not nearly enough, but Jiraiya's always been a cheapskate. You're the size of a small mountain. You could drink a lake of sake. Ignoring Jiraiya's outburst, Gamabunta continued, I'll send some toads back to Mount Myoboku for some more sake. We're celebrating tonight. Needless to say, 300 drunken toads make a hell of a racket. By the time the party was over, the hilltop was completely trashed, Konoha hadn't gotten any sleep, and there was a large mob looking for Jiraiya to kill him for something he couldn't remember doing. I'm never drinking again. Naruto staggered back to his apartment clutching his head, gently bumping against walls, lampposts, small animals, other people and the occasional purple elephant. I swear, I'm never drinking again. If I never see another purple elephant in my life, it'll be too soon. PP Purple Elephant. A-A are you AA alright N Naruto-kun? A soft voice stuttered from behind him. Unknown to him, Hinata had followed him and Jiraiya last night, silently cheering when Jiraiya had offered him the scroll, crying when she saw his eye bleeding, and cheering again when he got his second eye. Of course, when the toads were summoned she almost fainted, but when she heard his real last name, she actually fainted. When she woke up, the party was raging all around her, the toads seemingly oblivious to her presence, and Naruto and Jiraiya were too drunk to notice anything odd about her being there, although Jiraiya did wink at her when he saw her staring at Naruto. She stayed the night, watching the drunken antics of her crush and his godfather, laughing at the reveling toads, wishing she had the courage to join them. Why you don't look so well, do you, need any help getting home Naruto-kun? Oh, look, it's Hinata-chan, are you really here this time? I thought I saw you at the party last night, but there was a pink elephant next to you, so I guess it was the sake. Naruto was wobbling as he tried to remain vertical. I feel like someone put me through the spin cycle. Naruto seemed to tip forward in slow motion. Hinata wasn't fast enough and he crashed right into her, knocking them both to the ground. Seemingly unfazed by their predicament, or perhaps he was still drunk, Naruto latched onto Hinata's waist and pulled her into a hug, his face resting on her shoulder. Hinata, blushing so hard she seemed to glow, passed out with a faint meep. Naruto woke slowly. He didn't remember his pillow being this comfortable, and as he snuggled deeper, his pillow let out a small eep. Suddenly wide awake, Naruto jumped back almost 6 feet, finally noticing that he wasn't, as he had first thought, in his bedroom, but in one of the small alleyways that he took to get home. Hinata-chan, I'm sorry. IDD didn't hurt you did I? Still blushing crimson, Hinata managed to squeak out, NNN not AA at AA all. YYYUW were the P-perfect GG gentlemen. Why you didn't do AA anything IIIDD didn't W want you to DD do. Realizing what she just said, Hinata managed to blush harder before running off. Naruto on the other hand still hadn't managed to put 2 and 2 together yet, despite almost half of Konoha, the half that didn't plot his death regularly, having hinted it to him several times. Even Hyuga Hiyashi, in a rare moment of benevolence, had tried to hint to the thick-headed blonde how his daughter felt about him. Aw man, Hinata probably hates me now. Dejected and finally sober, Naruto dragged his feet on his way back to his apartment. Hopefully I can make it up to her somehow. I'd be really sad if she hated me. Why do I always have horrible luck with women? Road to Konoha present day. He really is clueless, isn't he? They had stopped for a quick lunch and Tsunade was taking the opportunity to ask Jiraiya questions. I have never met anyone thicker than he is. The sad part is he thinks he was bad luck when it's the opposite. The brat's literally the luckiest person alive. Once, he walked past a gambling house and every slot machine in the place hit the jackpot at the same time. After that, I took him to a gambling hall to see if it was just a freak accident. Kid got 12 jackpots, won at the roulette wheel 7 times, and won so many poker hands, despite not even knowing how to play, that we got kicked out. We were allowed to keep our winnings though, on the condition that he doesn't come within 3 miles of the place again. Now I want to heal him so I can take him with me. Tsunade had Ryo signs in her eyes. And she was practically drooling over how much money she could win with the kid. Was Naruto's last year in the academy peaceful, Jiraiya-sama? No, actually it was the most eventful. Konoha, 1 year, 10 months, 12 days ago. Naruto was excited. It was his last year in the academy and in 10 short months he'd finally be a real ninja, one step closer to his goal of becoming the strongest Hokage ever. Maybe he could make Rookie of the Year. He'd love to see the look on Sasuke's face if he managed to steal the award from him. After racing through the streets on his way to class, Naruto skidded through the door to his classroom. Aw man, how do you three beat me here every time? Already sitting in the classroom was Duck Butt, Dog Breath, his other rival, Inuzuka Kiba, and Hinata-chan. I ran as hard as I could. NN Naruto-kun, the Hyuga CC complex is a 2-minute W walk from H here. HN. To Naruto's trained ears that was, after I figured out you were trying to race me I started sleeping on the roof. My mom makes my get here 2 hours before the academy even opens. Kiba grumbled. Arf. Kiba's hood barked. Oh, hello to you too, Akamaru. Kiba's partner, Akamaru, popped his head out of Kiba's hood. Barking again, Akamaru jumped onto the table, his tail wagging. Who's a good puppy? You are. Yes you are. Naruto cooed while scratching Akamaru behind the ears. He's a puppy, not an imbecile, Naruto. Hey Naruto, what happened to your eyes? Looking up Naruto saw his first 2 friends Shikamaru and Choji. Hey guys, you noticed fast. And I have no idea what happened or if it even does anything different from my right eye. Naruto said cheerfully. Sitting down together, the 4 friends and Sasuke chatted about their vacations and what they did. Naruto would have loved to tell them about the Toad contract, but Jiraiya-sensei had told him not to tell anyone yet. And then, he fell down the stairs covered in pink paint and quacking like a duck. Naruto was telling them of the many pranks he pulled that summer. Best part was he woke up half an hour later and had no clue what had happened. They had his face on wanted posters for a week. Quiet down class. No one seemed to notice the voice from the front of the classroom. I said quiet down class. Iruka-sensei used his infamous, big head no jutsu, and silence descended on the class. Better. Today we start your 4th and final year in the academy. Iruka said cheerfully. During the first half of the year we shall finish our studies and the second half of the year will be devoted to practicing and reviewing all we have learned in the past 3.5 years. It was a tough year for Naruto. His test scores steadily dropped from middle of the class towards bottom rung. It seemed that the harder he tried the worse he did. By the 4-month mark it was clear to Naruto that he couldn't even get Rookie of the Year in his dreams now. By the 8-month mark it looked doubtful that he would even pass. Finally the day of the final exam arrived, and Naruto had decided to release some stress with the most awesome prank he ever pulled. The Hokage monument had been painted with a dizzying variety of colors and patterns, and next to the 4th's head there was a painting of a chibi Naruto giving the peace sign with a speech bubble proclaiming, "Space reserved for Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage." Yeah, I'm a bad. Naruto muttered to himself triumphantly as he put the finishing touches on his handiwork. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? Your final exam is in 10 minutes. Crap, it's Iruka-sensei, he always manages to find me. Iruka dragged a tied and gagged Naruto through the streets by his ear. Oi Lego I, as Nim mug to Manton. Air, Naruto tried to speak through the rope gag Iruka used to keep him relatively quiet. Dropping Naruto on the floor of the classroom, Iruka began, since everyone is here now, we can begin our final exams. The schedule will be 4 hours of written exam, then ranged weapons testing, followed by a 3-minute spar with Mizuki or me, and finally the 3 Academy Jutsu. It was the hardest test Naruto had ever taken in his life. He was sure they hadn't learned some of the things on it. Naruto was the last to finish and he had a splitting headache when he was done, which impacted his performance on the ranged test. Instead of tying with Sasuke, like he usually did, he was 5th in the class. By the time of the taijutsu spar, he was feeling better and was the only person in the class other than Sasuke to last the full 3 minutes against a sensei, although he could have sworn Mizuki actually tried to kill him once or twice during the spar. Finally, they came to the 3 Academy Jutsu. Everyone was sitting in their normal seats and was asked to do the 3 Academy Jutsu in front of the class. Finally, it was Naruto's turn. Alright Naruto, begin. Alright, time for the ultimate henge. Oryoke no Jutsu. There was a puff of smoke and instead of Naruto, there was an apparently buxom blonde girl tastefully covered with smoke. Half the class passed out with a nosebleed, the male half. I guess Ero Sennin was right. Women really are every man's weakness. Naruto, take this seriously. Iruka screamed while wiping the blood from his face. But I just knocked the entire male half of the class out with a simple henge. I even proved that Sasuke wasn't gay. Naruto said, pointing to Sasuke, who wasn't passed out, but clearly had a faraway look in his eyes and twin streaks of blood running out of his nose. You should be thanking me. I just proved the Uchiha wasn't a lost cause. Fine, for the convincing, if unorthodox henge, I'll pass you on this part of the test. Next, the Kawarimi. Fine, Kawarimi no Jutsu. Naruto switched with the handy log provided for this exercise. All hail the log, Naruto muttered under his breath. Pass, finally the Bunshin Jutsu. Alright, take a look at this. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto made 3 perfect shadow clones. I can give you extra credit for that, Naruto, but it doesn't count towards your Bunshin grade. Iruka said after consulting the rulebook. What? But I can't do the normal Bunshin, Naruto exclaimed while looking panic-stricken. Mizuki did his best not to look smug. If it all went pear-shaped, Iruka would be blamed for making the rule up. Serves him right for not noticing the genjutsu I placed on the book. Grinning slightly, Mizuki said, look, he did 3 Bunshin, even if they were Kage Bunshin, and those are harder. We should pass him. Iruka sighed, I really wish I could, but the rules are clear. No Bunshin, no pass. Iruka honestly looked upset. Inwardly, Mizuki was dancing. Danzo would reward him quite well if he pulled this off. It was later when Naruto was sitting on the swing, staring out into space. All of the passing ninja had already gone home. Hey Naruto, don't give up hope yet. There's a group of Anbu that you technically qualify to join. All you need to do is pass the initiation test. You see, there's this scroll of seals in the Hokage's office that you have to get. Wait, I'm trying to tell a story here, Harem. He beat Sensei with his jutsu. Isn't that what I just said? Konoha 12 months 14 days ago. Naruto made it to the meeting ground almost 2 hours early. Let's see what's in this scroll. Naruto unfurled the scroll. It's full of kinjutsu. Did I grab the wrong one? This seems like an awfully dangerous scroll to retrieve for an initiation. Never know when I'll get another chance to look at this scroll, better make notes. Naruto pulled a scroll out of his pocket and began writing down interesting looking jutsu. The first jutsu is the Kage Bunshin and its derivatives, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. I didn't know that had a name, Bunshin Daibakua. Ooh, that sounds fun, the ability to make my clones explode. Hell yeah, what else is in here? Crap. Why the hell would I want to do that? Okay, that's just gross. Edo Tensai. What's that? Okay, that's just wrong. Is there anything normal in here other than Kage Bunshin? Oh wait, here's one, Chidori. Isn't it that move Kakashi Ojisan refuses to teach me? The fourth put it in here, oh so that's why. You need a Sharingan to make it useful, maybe I'll save it for Sasuke. Naruto scrolled through jutsu after jutsu that killed you or did something gruesome to your enemies, often at the same time. Well, that was a bust. I learned one jutsu that I can actually use from the scroll of seals. Naruto furled the scroll when he got to the end of the jutsu in the scroll. Then it hit him the seals. Naruto quickly unfurled the scroll again, opening it up to the sealed artifacts section. Okay, there's got to be something good. After spending half an hour poring over the sealed items, he settled on Uzu no Tsubasa, the wings of the whirlpool, which was apparently covered Uzumaki-style fuinjutsu, the problem being that it absorbed the user's chakra to power its seals. The last 3 people who tried to wield it were killed when it ate their chakra completely dry. If you didn't have enough chakra to power the thing the first time you picked it up, it would kill you. Sounds cool. Let's try it. Naruto wiped a bloody thumb over the seal. There was a poof of smoke and, well, that's not what I was expecting. At 10 feet long, the weapon was easily twice his height. At each end there was a 2.5 foot long 5-inch wide dark green blade, with silver edges and seals carved into the flat of each blade. From a distance the complex shape of each seal faded and blended together to form the shape of a wing, the wing on one blade pointing in the opposite direction as the wing on the other. The narrow handle was wrapped in blood-red leather, and was 5 feet long. How the hell am I supposed to use this thing? Forgetting that if he wasn't going to use it, he probably shouldn't touch it, Naruto bent down and picked up Uzu no Tsubasa, intending to seal it back into the scroll. What he got instead was excruciating agony as his chakra was ripped away. What's going on, Kit? The chakra drain had woken Kurama up from his long nap. Hey, the academy is boring. Stupid staff is eating all my chakra. Naruto managed to croak out through the pain. That thing. I thought they sealed it away. Kurama growled in anger when he saw the staff. They did. I kinda unsealed it. Naruto would have sounded sheepish, if it wasn't for the fact that it had eaten half his chakra already. Feed it my chakra until it stops. Kurama began shoving his own chakra into Naruto, his distinctive fox-shaped energy shroud forming at 2 tails. The shroud held for all of 3 seconds before it too was ed in. Okay. This is bad, Kit. What were you thinking? That I have 4 times the chakra of Ero Sennin. Naruto was sweating bullets now. The staff had eaten more than 3/4 of his huge reserves and was still going strong, even with Kurama feeding it too. Just as Naruto thought he was going to die, the chakra drain ended as suddenly as it started. Naruto collapsed in a heap. His body felt as if it was made of jelly. He had so little chakra left, that he was sure the only reason he was alive was that Kurama's chakra was still flowing through him, keeping him alive. Thanks buddy, I owe you one. Naruto's palms itched. Wondering why, he looked at his hands. The kanji Tsubasa blade's wings glowed briefly on his palms before fading away like it was never there. Next time leave the sealed weapons alone, Kit. They're sealed for a reason. Kurama groused. You look like shit, Kit. Get some rest. Naruto drifted off for half an hour. I found you, Naruto. Uruka growled, looming over the dozing blonde. Uruka-sensei. Are you my contact? Mizuki-sensei said I had to give this scroll to the person who showed up here and I could join a secret Anbu subgroup. Mizuki. Suddenly, Uruka palm thrust Naruto across the clearing, getting him out of the way of a barrage of kunai. Uruka wasn't fast enough to dodge them himself, however. Naruto, run back to the Hokage, tell him what happened. Give me the scroll, Naruto. Gone was Mizuki's friendly demeanor from this morning. Now he was cold, whether with hate or rage Naruto wasn't sure. Don't listen to him, Naruto. The scroll of seals is full of dangerous kinjutsu and deadly artifacts. He used you to get his hands on it. There's no point in lying to you, I guess. Oh, I know. There's something that everybody's been lying to you about. Shut up, Mizuki. That's an S-rank secret. You killed Uruka-chan's parents, did you know that? He hates you. Oh, you're talking about the fox. Naruto stood up shakily. faint flickers of red chakra coursing up and down his body, and, I thought you had a real secret to tell me. I know all about the Kyuubi no Kurama. Turning from the shocked Mizuki to equally stunned Iruka, if we knew your parents were among the dead we would have apologized sooner, Iruka-sensei. Kurama was under a genjutsu cast by a masked man with a Sharingan, he had no intention of destroying Konoha. Honestly, he's rather lazy. Mizuki was shocked. As far as he knew, Danzo-sama still believed that the boy hadn't found out about the fox yet. He had to get this information back to Danzo before it was too late. This could ruin all of Danzo-sama's plans. I'm afraid you're going to have to come with me to meet someone, Naruto, just as soon as I kill this meddler. Mizuki threw his oversized Fuma shuriken at the already injured Iruka. Naruto managed to tackle Iruka at the last second possible. Why? Was all Iruka could get out. You were the only teacher who was nice to me. Still exhausted, Naruto called on more of Kurama's chakra, his whisker marks thickened, his nails lengthened, and the blue part of his eyes turned blood red, and the pale purple turned a much darker shade of purple. Naruto's normally contracted pupils dilated and then bent into vertical slits. The faint flashes of red that had surrounded him before thickened into floating balls of red chakra and began to slowly coalesce into a solid shroud. Naruto raised his left arm. The kanji on his palm was glowing a sickly green. There was a whirling noise and Uzu no Tsubasa flew through the air and into his outstretched hand. Twirling it over his head, Naruto charged Mizuki. Nice weapon, demon. Shame you don't know how to use it. It'll make a fine trophy. Along with your head. Mizuki rushed in, only to be stopped by a flash of silver green he narrowly avoided. Naruto had swept low, forcing Mizuki to jump to avoid losing his legs. Spinning the blade around his shoulder, the other attack came at Mizuki from a high angle while he was still in the air. Mizuki managed to block the attack with a kunai, but the force of the swing was enough to send him crashing back to the ground. Standing up, Mizuki saw his kunai was almost cut all the way through. Shit, this is bad. Mizuki threw the damaged kunai at Naruto, who batted it out of the air. Pulling two kunai out, Mizuki advanced cautiously this time. He managed to parry the first few attacks without damaging his kunai by making sure to only parry with the point of the kunai against the flat of the blade. But even though he was managing to keep his weapons intact, the superior range of Uzu no Tsubasa prevented him from getting close enough to directly attack Naruto. Just as Mizuki felt he was getting used to Naruto's twirling style of combat, Naruto jumped backwards and changed his grip on his weapon. Instead of holding it in the middle, like a staff, he held it at the back, like a spear. Despite the increased range, Mizuki was relived. He can't thrust as fast with one blade as he can swing with two. I've got him now. Dodging out of the way of a thrust aimed at his head by tilting his upper body to the left, Mizuki began to close the distance. Dodging the next two thrusts easily, Mizuki's confidence began to grow. Dodging the fourth and fifth attacks, Mizuki was almost in range. Suddenly spinning his weapon around, Naruto now held it towards the front. What's he up to? All that weight behind him will work against him. Naruto seemed to overextend his last thrust. Yes, he's mine. Mizuki charged in, raised his weapons for the killing stroke, and only barely noticed the smirk on Naruto's face before lightning bolts shot out of the handle and blade, stopping Mizuki in his tracks. Once more twirling the staff over his head, Naruto charged the semi-paralyzed Mizuki. Mizuki barely managed partially dodge and block the downward stroke meant to split him in half. This time, however, instead of only cutting halfway through the kunai he used to block, the Uzu no Tsubasa cut all the way through, and through Mizuki's forearm behind it, and through Mizuki's bicep behind that. Aarrrrgh. Mizuki was lying on the ground, clutching the stump where his arm used to be. His eyes widened as he saw the Uzu no Tsubasa descend, Naruto clearly meaning to decapitate him with this swing. Naruto, stop. Iruka grabbed Naruto's wrist through the chakra shroud. His hand immediately began to burn, but Iruka didn't let go. Why? So he can try to kill me again. Because he's more human than I am. Naruto's voice was deep and animalistic under the effects of his two-tailed chakra shroud. Of course not. If anyone hears a monster, it's him, but Naruto, he might have valuable information. Iruka was still holding Naruto's wrist with his blackening hand. At the very least, he's a traitor, and being killed in these woods is more than he deserves. Take him back to Konoha and let the third pass judgment on him. Naruto's chakra shroud slowly died down. Sensei, your hand. Naruto finally realized what had happened to Iruka's hand. With tears in his hand, he asked, why? Because if you killed an unarmed prisoner, then you would have taken the first step to becoming the monster he wanted you to be. No, I meant, why are you so nice to me? Even now, knowing that I know about the fox, that I'm friends with the fox, how can you be so concerned about me? I saw a lot of myself in you, Naruto. We're both orphans, both pranksters in the academy. I'm sorry I didn't do a better job as your teacher. If I had allowed myself to play favorites, you'd have been mine. Iruka collapsed, leaning against a tree. Come here, Naruto, I have a present for you. Iruka tiredly beckoned Naruto over to him. Close your eyes. Naruto felt his goggles slip off, then something else was clumsily tied to his forehead. Sorry, my left hand's a little stiff. Iruka said while tying the knot. Open your eyes. Naruto opened his eyes to see a tiredly smiling Iruka, who wasn't wearing his Hitai anymore. What is it? Holding up Naruto's goggles so he could see his reflection, Iruka said, I know it's not Anbu, but congratulations, you pass. Iruka tried to stand but fell over. Could you help me up? Naruto helped Iruka up. After making 3 shadow clones to tie up and carry Mizuki, together they headed back to town. So do I really pass, Sensei? I think what you did tonight deserves some extra credit, don't you? Come on, we need to find the Hokage, and then get me to a hospital. Coming out of the woods, they found themselves surrounded by an angry horde of ninja. Oh bugger. Oh, bugger. They were surrounded, and the ninja didn't look like they were going to listen to reason. If you'd just put your weapons down and kill the demon. Look, he's killed 2 Academy Sensei. Actually, Mizuki's a traitor, and I'm still alive. Iruka managed to say, not that it seemed like anyone would listen to him. He's a monster, kill him. Nope, not listening. During the shouting, the embled ninja closed in on Naruto. But when they were 10 feet, Jiraiya managed to shunshin between the groups. What's going on here? He killed 2 Academy Sensei and stole the scroll of seals, now he's come to kill us all. Jiraiya had to fight the urge to face palm. Iruka had managed to stand up by himself and was carrying the scroll of seals, while Mizuki was clearly rolling on the floor in pain, whimpering to himself. Obviously, you need to get your eyes checked. Jiraiya took up a combat stance. I will not let you attack a Konoha nin unprovoked. Especially when it's my godson, who just caught a traitor. Jiraiya's siding with the demon. Kill him. Someone shouted from the back. Yeah, kill him. Came another voice from the back. Something's wrong here, thought Jiraiya. No Konoha nin would be that stupid. He's obviously trying to rile up the mob into attacking me. Assassination attempt. Danzo. Now on guard for a surprise attack, Jiraiya subtly moved, so anyone trying to backstab him would be right in Naruto's sights, the one person in Konoha he really trusted to watch his back. Quickly flashing some subtle hand signs, he informed Naruto to be on the lookout for surprise attacks. Arrow Sennin, should I make a path out? No, we'll wait for the Hokage to come here. No fighting unless they attack first. The mob tried to come closer, but Jiraiya began to pour out killing intent, like it was water on a hot day. As the mob began to back away, the voices from the back called, cowards. We'll kill the demons by ourselves. 3 cloaked and masked Anbu shoved their way to the front of the mob. Drawing odd tip less Tonto, they began to circle Jiraiya and Naruto. They're Anbu, Naruto. You can use that technique if you want. It's less likely to kill them than your new toy anyway. As he finished talking, the 3 Anbu charged, 2 going for him and 1 for Naruto. Easily dodging their swords, Jiraiya delivered a crushing kick to one that sent him flying into the other. Naruto grunted in pain behind him. Apparently the Anbu had tried to kill Iruka, and Naruto had stopped the blade with his shoulder. Seeing the demon injured was apparently enough of a motivation for the mob. They charged screaming battle cries and death threats. Before the Anbu could pull his tanto out of Naruto's shoulder, a shadow clone grabbed his arm, holding him in place. The clone then held his hand out to palm down Naruto, who placed his own hand 3 inches below his clone's hand, palm up. "Let me show you a move I've been working on all year." Blue energy began to swirl in the space between their hands. "Rasengan!" Naruto screamed while slamming the Rasengan into the Anbu's stomach. The force of the blow was enough to send the man flying into 3 others behind him. Naruto was disappointed in the ninjas who were attacking him. They were weak. Sasuke was more than a match for them, hell, even Kiba was more than a match for most of them. But they didn't seem interested in giving up, so he could respect them for that, not that it would stop him from breaking their limbs. After about 5 minutes of Jiraiya and Naruto kicking weakling, the Hokage himself arrived, flanked by 50 Anbu. "I will not tolerate my shinobi fighting amongst themselves." The amount of killing intent Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sandaime Hokage released was enough to bring Jiraiya to his knees. "Explain yourselves." "The demon killed 2 Academy sensei and stole the scroll of seals, and then he attacked us." An injured Anbu with a curiously spiral-shaped wound on his chest shouted. "You know, it's really annoying when people keep proclaiming your death right in front of you." Iruka, who still had the scroll of seals slung over his shoulder, said to Mizuki, who during the confusion had tried to crawl away on his hand and knees. Iruka had prevented his escape by the efficient method of sitting on his back. "Obviously you need to get your eyes checked," the Hokage said flatly. Turning to Iruka, the Hokage said, "Since anything Jiraiya and Naruto say will be decried as lies by the majority of Konoha, tell me what the hell happened here." "As far as I can tell, this bastard," Iruka gave the whimpering Mizuki a thump on the head, "sabotaged Naruto's final exam. Then, with the promise of joining a secret Anbu subgroup, he convinced Naruto to steal the scroll of seals and bring it here. I found Naruto first and figured out had happened just before Mizuki showed up. Naruto beat him with some clever underhanded tactics. Then as we were dragging this guy back to Konoha proper, so you could pass judgment on his scheming, this mob showed up and attacked us, although those 3 Anbu," he pointed to 3 now bound and gagged Anbu, who had attempted to escape during his speech, riled them up and attacked first. "Gather the mob up and take them to T&I's lockdown for questioning. I'll personally see to it that these 4, he gestured to the 3 bound Anbu and Mizuki, are taken care of. Jiraiya, Naruto, come with me." After delivering his prisoners personally to a high-security cell, and the tender care of Morino Ibiki, Yamanaka Inoichi, and Mitarashi Anko, the Hokage took Jiraiya and Naruto to his office. "Now Naruto, explain to me what happened." After Naruto's long-winded and rant-heavy retelling of what happened that night, the Hokage leaned several important things. 1. Naruto's test was obviously sabotaged with a genjutsu designed to make him answer questions incorrectly and give him a headache that would interfere with the next part of the test. 2. Naruto was a gullible idiot. 3. Naruto had more chakra than Jiraiya, almost 5 times the amount, even without the fox. 4. He had managed to not only unseal the Uzu no Tsubasa, but to use it effectively without any training. And 5. Jiraiya had managed to teach him Rasengan, a signature move of the Yondaime, second only to the Hiroshin no Jutsu in fame and power. Conclusion: Naruto needed more mental training, but was definitely shinobi material. It would be a shame to lose him because of the incident with Mizuki. Naruto, I have decided to uphold Iruka's judgment. You pass, and as for capturing the traitor Mizuki, I am retroactively leaning it to you as a B rank mission. Depending on what information he has, I may upgrade it to an A- rank. Dismissed. As they turned to leave, the Hokage continued, in a warm grandfatherly voice, instead of his formal debriefing voice he had used earlier, "And Naruto, good job." Smiling, Naruto headed home, looking forward to sleeping in tomorrow for the first time in almost 5 years. Naruto woke at noon. Looking at the clock, he realized he only had 15 minutes to get to the Hokage Tower for his ninja registration card appointment. Pulling on his trademark orange jumpsuit and grabbing Uzu no Tsubasa, he ran out of his apartment as fast as he could. After trying a variety of poses and face paints, all of which the Hokage refused to accept, he finally settled on a picture of him grinning wickedly with the Uzu no Tsubasa slung over his shoulders. Finally, Naruto, it took you long enough to take a normal picture. The Hokage grumbled as he did the paperwork for Naruto's official registration. There was a patter of small feet running down the hall just before the door to the Hokage's office burst open. "Fight me, old man." Skidding into the room was a small boy wearing what had to be the stupidest hat Naruto had ever seen, along with an overlarge scarf. Naruto wondered briefly if he should stop the kid before he hurt himself trying to fight the Hokage. But his decision not to interfere was rendered pointless, when the kid managed to trip over his own scarf and slammed his face into the floor. "Alright, who tripped me?" The kid looked up and saw Naruto sitting in the chair across from the Hokage. "It was you, wasn't it?" he shouted while running at Naruto. Naruto grabbed the kid by his shirt and held him a foot off the ground. "You tripped over your own stupidly long scarf, brat. If I tripped you, you'd know it." As they were shouting at each other, a man wearing the standard dark blue Konoha shinobi uniform with his Hittite on a bandana and dark sunglasses stormed into the room. "Unhand him, you fiend. That's the Hokage's grandson." Naruto took a long look at the brat, before gently setting him on the ground. Before the boy could do more than look smug, Naruto punted him across the room. Like I care. Naruto decided that with his meeting done, he was going to have a nice quiet day, maybe have some victory ramen at Isuruka's. The main problem was that the brat from the Hokage's office had been following him for hours. "Okay, I've officially had enough, are you even trying?" he said to the kind who was trying to hide behind a sheet painted to look like the wooden fence he was standing next to. Unfortunately for him, he was holding it sideways and his fingers and toes were clearly visible. "Wow, how'd you know I was there? I've been trying to ignore you for hours. You really need to work on your stealth. You were able to see through my perfect disguises. The rumors about you must really be true. I'll tell you what, you teach me the jutsu you used to defeat the old man and I'll call you boss." Needless to say, the chance to corrupt the kid made him agree to it. He'd love to see the old man's face when the kid, Konohamaru apparently, used this techniques on him. "So what do you have against the old man anyways?" Naruto was quite curious about what would drive a little kid like Konohamaru into doing something as suicidal as charging the Hokage with a kunai. "I'm named after the village, easy name to remember, right?" Konohamaru looked sad as he began telling his story, "But no one ever calls me my name, it's always, honorable grandson, or something, all they see is my grandfather. If I beat him and take the title of Hokage, then they'll definitely recognize me as me. I would be free of the shadow of the Hokage." Naruto interrupted him with a bop on the head. "Idiot, being Hokage is a lot more than that, it's not something that you can take. You have to earn it. That's why it's my dream to become Hokage. If I ever become Hokage, that'll mean I've proven that I'm the strongest ninja in the village, the best one to protect it. The Hokage has to be able to give up everything for the village. Even his life." Naruto looked down, "Or his son." He said quietly, "If you want to be Hokage, you'll have to beat me. Become stronger than I am and prove that you'll protect the village better than I can, and you'll become Hokage. But it's a hard road ahead, and there are no shortcuts on the way there." "Found you." Looking up, saw the man from earlier, Ebisu, Konohamaru's personal tutor. "Come, we have work to do. You must master hundreds of jutsu to even be qualified to be Hokage, and you'll never learn them without my shortcuts." "No way. Boss is a way better teacher than you. I already learned the technique he used to beat the old man. Watch this, Oryoke no Jutsu." Transforming into a brown-haired version of Naruto's Oryoke no Jutsu and taking a suggestive pose, he was surprised to see it do nothing to Ebisu. "How perverted. You can't stay around that boy any longer. You've gotten dumber already. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto surrounded Ebisu with clones. Each clone then made the hand seal for the Oryoke no Jutsu, Harem no Jutsu. Suddenly being surrounded by 30 nubile blondes was more than Ebisu could handle. He crumpled to the ground, nose gushing blood. That was awesome, boss. You defeated him with one move. Konohamaru looked thoughtful for a moment. If you're going to be Hokage and I want to be Hokage, that means we're rivals, huh? Nothing wrong with being rivals. I already have two other people who consider me their rival. One of which you could call my best friend. Naruto waved as he left. I got a busy day tomorrow. I need to get ready. Later, Konohamaru. Konoha 12 months, 13 days ago. Naruto was running late. He didn't want to put away his goggles. After all, they were the best birthday present he ever got, but he wasn't sure where to wear his hitai. After half an hour of tying it to random parts of his clothes and body, he settled for the standard on the forehead location and just pushed his goggles onto the top of his head. I can't believe how late I am. Naruto was the last person there other than Iruka-sensei. Naruto waved to his few friends as he came in. Noticing that Sasuke was looking more emo than usual, Naruto decided to see what was wrong. Oi duck, but what's wrong? We just graduated. You shouldn't look so grim. But Sasuke was apparently so far into his own little world that he didn't notice. Naruto. Leave Sasuke-kun alone. In the years since they stopped talking to each other, Sakura's personality had devolved into pure mindless fangirl. Sometimes Naruto thought he saw flashes of the strong-willed, courageous girl she used to be. It really broke his heart. Ignoring her, Naruto tried to look Sasuke in the eyes, but the angle was all wrong. Finally, hoping on the desk in front of Sasuke, Naruto poked Sasuke in the forehead, forcing him to look up at Naruto. Sasuke's eyes widened fractionally. Naruto, what are? But unfortunately for everyone involved at that moment, the student behind Naruto decided to stretch. He bumped into Naruto, knocking him forward, straight into Sasuke's face. You doing here? Sasuke actually managed to finish his sentence despite the near fatal, at least as far as Naruto was concerned, kiss. Naruto, on the other hand, was rolling on the floor, clutching his throat, his skin an unpleasant green color. The only noises he seemed capable of making were gagging ones. Naruto, why did you have ramen for breakfast? Sasuke asked the gagging Naruto. I'm sure that can't be healthy. No wonder you're so short. The rest of the class was shocked by Sasuke's non-reaction. Maybe he really is gay, was the thought of the majority of the males in the class. The women in the classroom only had one thought at the moment: kill. They descended on the defenseless Naruto like a swarm of angry hornets. Sasuke had propped the unconscious Naruto in his usual seat. Please tell me that was a horrible nightmare, Naruto said to Sasuke when he woke up. The beating or the kiss? Both. Nope, both happened. How can you be so calm? Or was that not your first kiss? I'm just glad you managed to pass. I was worried when you failed the other day. You're my rival. If you do badly, I look bad. While they had been talking, Iruka-sensei had come into the room and started calling the names of graduates and assigning them to teams. Team 7 will be Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto and Sasuke fist bumped at this piece of news. And the whole room was silent. Every girl in the room had their fingers crossed. The boys were smart enough to keep their mouths shut. Kami forbid they made a noise and the girls couldn't hear who was the third team member. Hyuga Hinata. Did you have something to do with the team formation? That was actually all Kakashi. He pitched the idea as Team Jujutsu. That, and he said those three together would have no weak ranges. Hinata as close-range taijutsu specialist, Naruto as mid-range taijutsu, ninjutsu user, and Sasuke as a long-range ninjutsu specialist. He said he wanted to create the perfect team. And the council let him get away with it. The council was putting a lot of pressure on Kakashi to train Sasuke. They were trying to get him to automatically pass Sasuke. When he flat out refused to skip his test, they tried to appease him by letting him pick the two he wanted to train in hopes that it would make him more likely to pass them. Besides, by this point the council realized that they'd have to pair them up or Sasuke would be mad. What was Hinata's reaction? Shizune interrupted. Once more she seemed more interested in Naruto's love life than the politics and intrigue that surrounded him. Well, Konoha 12 months, 13 days ago. Team 7 will be Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata. A soft thump, from the back of the class, was heard over the sound of the crushed hopes of the girls in the class. Hyuga Hinata had passed out when Iruka-sensei had announced that she was the third member of Team 7. Oh, no, Hinata fainted again. Will she be alright, sensei? The ever-oblivious Naruto had rushed to the back of the class to help his new teammate up. When she woke up in his arms she fainted again. She's burning up, sensei. Shouldn't she see a doctor? You really are an idiot, aren't you, Fishcake? Sasuke was already getting fed up with the antics of his teammates. He hoped the constant contact his teammates would stop her fainting spells. Naruto, on the other hand, Sasuke believed there was no hope for. If he hadn't figured out how she felt despite 4 years of constant stalking, fainting, blushing, and stuttering around him, he probably would manage to misunderstand and, I love you. What are you talking about, duck butt? She could be really sick. Naruto said while placing her on the bench between him and Sasuke. I'm fine, Naruto-kun, don't worry about me. Hinata had woken up and was fighting her urge to blush and faint. I can't faint every time I'm close to Naruto-kun. I'm one step closer to me dream. I can't screw up now. After half an hour of waiting, all of their classmates had been picked up by their Jonin-sensei. After an hour, Naruto started banging his head on the table. No, 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 no. Naruto, what's wrong? He just figured out who our sensei is, no doubt. It took him long enough. Why? Naruto was sobbing now. Do I really have to spend every day waiting hours for that lazy slacker? Even Shikamaru gets things done faster. Well, it makes sense that he would want to train me, and he used to train you, before he got demoted by Jiraiya, but why did he pick Hinata? Who or why you talking about? Hitaki Kakashi, laziest Jonin ever, he's always at least 3 hours late to everything. Suddenly smiling, Naruto continued, which means I still have 2 hours to set a trap. Cackling evil, Naruto removed a sealing scroll from his pocket. The label read, Traps. After opening the scroll, Naruto unsealed the contents, revealing several dozen spools of ninja wire, 60 feet of metal chain, a small mountain of kunai, various exploding tags, 7 gallons of pink acrylic paint, 10 gallons of orange paint, an industrial-sized barrel of glue, a 15-pound sack of glitter, 5 metal buckets, a 5-gallon can of cherry syrup, a crossbow with various quarrels including several with suction cup heads, a large bear trap, an actual kitchen sink, 3 rubber chickens, whoopee cushions of various sizes, a ninja log, 3 cinder blocks, 4 large rocks, various rubber bands including one 7 feet across, a 30-pound sack of flour, a large stack of pre-made kick me signs, each with a different person's handwriting, including, Hinata noticed, both hers and Sasuke's, a 12-shelf spice rack crammed with various spices and powders, 3 coconuts, a large watermelon, 30 bags of balloons, a large anvil, an old boot, and finally there were 8 identical 30-gallon drums, each with a different label: water, paint thinner, lye, oil, soap, liquid, milk, sour, bleach, and honey. Staring at the mountain of stuff, Sasuke said, "You carry all this around with you everyday, Fishcake?" Sasuke was suddenly glad he hadn't made an enemy of Naruto. Well, duh, you never know when the opportunity for a good prank arises, said Naruto cheerfully as he seemingly randomly began stabbing kunai into the ceiling and the walls. As he worked, Hinata asked, what exactly are you going to do to him? Some of the things in Naruto's, admittedly impressive, eclectic pile of things could really hurt someone. It seemed rather extreme. After all, Hinata was a patient person. 3 hours of waiting didn't seem so bad. Naruto had mad an intricate web of ninja wire on the ceiling. Handing the end of it to Sasuke, he said, "You'll see, here, hold this for me, Sasuke." Naruto began pulling random things out of the pile and arranging them in smaller piles. An hour and 45 minutes. Naruto's trap was almost done. Naruto tied a loop of ninja wire around a blackboard eraser. After dusting the eraser with itching powder, Naruto wedged it between the panels of the sliding door. 5 seconds after Naruto finished his last check of the trap, Kakashi opened the door. The eraser landed directly on his head. Stepping all the way into the room, Kakashi managed to say, "Well, my first impression is," before the rest of the trap went off. First was the pink paint, followed closely by a bucket full of glitter that landed upside down on his head. Next, the watermelon landed on the bucket. Mildly dazed, Kakashi stumbled forward a step, tripping the wire that set off the next part of the trap. The large loop of ninja wire under his feet pulled closed, dragging him upside down into the air. Bucket now hanging by his chin, Kakashi glared daggers at them all. Before he could speak, the crossbow went of the suction cup tipped dart coated in glue, hit Kakashi right between the eyes. "I hate you all." Sasuke wondered why Kakashi was glaring at him in particular. When he realized something, he was still holding the wire Naruto handed to him, letting go of the wire like it was on fire. Sasuke inadvertently set off the final stage of the trap. Kakashi, still upside down, dropped onto the bear trap, which was sitting in the middle of a large puddle of cherry syrup. Kakashi stood up shakily, bucket back over his eyes. Bear trap lodged in the bucket. With his voice echoing inside the bucket, Kakashi said, "Meet me on the roof now. Fishcake, I'm going to kill you." Sasuke growled at Naruto. He had thought the trap amusing, up until he realized he'd been set up as the fall guy. Did you see the look on his face? That was priceless. Naruto was rolling on the floor laughing. "I haven't gotten anyone that good in ages." Hinata was trying hard not to laugh at what Naruto had done to their sensei. Sure, it was the funniest thing she remembered seeing in a long time, but she had seen the "kick me" sign taped to the back of the bucket, in what she would swear was her own handwriting. She wondered how the blonde managed to forge her handwriting good enough to fool herself. "NN Naruto-kun, how did you forge my HH handwriting like THTH that?" "Oh, that's easy. I paint it." "What do you mean, fishcake?" Sasuke had noticed sign too. "It's like making a seal. I treat each letter like it's a volatile seal that blows up unless I get it perfect. Give me a sample to memorize and I can forge anyone's handwriting." "Come on. Let's get up to the roof." On the roof, Kakashi was fuming. He'd seen the eraser, of course, and decided to humor Naruto. But instead of chalk dust, it was itching powder, and it only got worse from there. Take for example the bear trap that had bitten into the bucket that had been on his head. Or the acrylic paint in his hair. It would take hours to get it out of his hair. He'd be damned if he had to get a haircut because of this. After having to wait 10 minutes, they finally arrived on the roof. "Okay, introductions first. Let's get to know each other." What do you mean, sensei?" "Oh, you know, likes, dislikes, hobbies, hopes and dreams, stuff like that." "Why don't you go first, sensei?" Sasuke was trying to be polite after Naruto's attempted framing. "Well, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. My likes and dislikes are personal. Dreams for the future. You're too young to know what my hobbies are. There, who's next?" Naruto rolled his eyes at Kakashi's non-introduction. He likes salt-broiled celery and miso soup with eggplant and being lazy. He hates sweets and people who abandon the mission and people who abandon their friends he hates more. His hobbies are being late and reading porn in public, and he dreams of being 3 hours late to his own funeral. Naruto was looking smug at the light he shed on their sensei's personality. "Anyways, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen and training. I hate having to wait," he glared at Kakashi, "for anything, and people with no sense of humor. My hobbies are training and pranks, I guess. My dream is to become the strongest ninja ever, and have the village finally acknowledge my existence, before electing me Hokage." Hinata was next. My name is Hyuga Hinata. I like our red bean soup and cinnamon bee buns and Her voice trailed off and she looked at Naruto out of the corner of her eye before continuing, "I dislike shellfish, and hate bee bullies. I hope to become self-C confident and my dream is to ch change the way my clan is run when become clan head. My hobby is pressing flowers I guess." Sasuke went last, HN. "My name is Uchiha Sasuke, the last of the Uchiha. I like tomatoes, and hate traitors. I hope to kill the person who killed my clan, and I dream of rebuilding my clan. Hobbies. Training with Naruto I guess." Kakashi was mildly impressed with Sasuke's speech. He sounded livelier than he expected, granted he was expecting nothing after the HN. Maybe he could stomach teaching them after all. "Alright, take the rest off the day off. We'll meet at training ground 7 at 5 in the morning for your final exam." "Oi Pinky. We already graduated. What do we need another test for?" Naruto jumped up at the mention of another test. He didn't suffer through 4 years at the academy only to fail now. "Heh, you'll love this. See, this test has a 66% failure rate, 27 of you graduated, after tomorrow there will only be 9. The rest have to repeat another year at the academy. Then what was the point of the final exam they made us take? To see if you have the potential to be ninjas. Tomorrow's test is to see who has the skill to be a ninja right now." Kakashi stood to leave. "Oh, and you might want to skip breakfast, or else you'll probably throw up." Kakashi I smiled at them. "Sleep well," he said while waving over his shoulder. As Hinata and Sasuke stood up to leave, Naruto stopped them. "Guys, don't bother waking up till 6, and make sure you eat breakfast early. If there's a chance we really will throw up, the solution is to make sure your food digests before you get there. Kakashi Oji-san won't get there until 9 at the earliest. I'll see you there." Naruto ran off to prepare for the next day. Konoha 12 months, 12 days ago. Arriving at 9:15, Naruto was the last of his team to get to training ground 7. "What's up? You guys sleep well?" "Well enough, Fishcake. What about you?" "I slept fine. What about you, Hinata? Did you remember to eat?" Why yes, and Naruto-kun, I slept versus very well, and I got to have a cinnamon bee bun for breakfast." Hinata said brightly. "Hey guys. Good morning." Kakashi strolled into the clearing, humming to himself. "You're late." Naruto groused, half-heartedly. "So what's this big test?" Kakashi held up 2 bells. "You have until noon to get one of these from me. The one who doesn't get a bell by noon, well," Kakashi said, grinning wickedly behind his mask, "not only do they fail, they get no lunch, and the ones who pass get to eat lunch in front of them while they're tied to this log. Come at me with intent to kill or you won't pass." Perhaps not the smartest thing to say to this group, but Kakashi was sure he could handle anything they could throw at him. "The test begins now." They immediately scattered, each going in a different direction. Sasuke had decided to hang back and watch whoever attacked Kakashi first, so he could gather information and form his own plan of attack. Naruto paced in a small clearing. He knew he was outmatched. If Kakashi wanted to keep him from the bells, Naruto would have no chance, unless maybe he summoned Gamabunta directly above Kakashi, but then they wouldn't have a sensei to teach them. Hinata was deep in thought. She had never heard of 2-man teams, and knew that she had no chance whatsoever of getting the bells on her own. Reaching the conclusion that this was a teamwork test, she went to find the others. First she found Sasuke. "Sasuke-san, we need to work together. We won't be able to take a bell by ourselves. The point of this test is teamwork, not individual strength. There are only 2 bells. What if you're wrong? If I'm wrong, I'll go back to the academy. Naruto won't like that, but I'll go with you to find him. We can decide what to do when we find him." By now Naruto was cursing and banging his head against a tree, so it wasn't that hard to find him. "You know, if this was a stealth-based test you'd have already failed, right, Fishcake?" Hinata thinks this is a teamwork-based test, says she's willing to go back to the academy if she's wrong. Never one to let others make the sacrifice when he felt he could shoulder the burden. Naruto interrupted, "Hell no. I can go back. Without Mizuki Tem sabotaging my test, I could get Rookie of the Year. I'll stay back. I told you he wouldn't agree. Let's save this conversation for when we actually have the bells. What's the plan? First of all, Hinata-chan, what are your skills? I know Sasuke's well enough to make a plan with him, but I really know almost nothing about you. Naruto said, sheepishly rubbing the back of high head. I know the Hyuga-style taijutsu, Juken. Well, what does it do? It can block an opponent's tenketsu, but I can't see them yet, so I can't stop his chakra, but I can disrupt it, I guess. Grinning like a madman, Naruto said, ooh, I can work with that. Okay, here's what we do. After half an hour, Kakashi was getting bored. He had honestly expected someone, even Hinata, to have mad their wove by now. Come out and fight me. Kakashi sighed at Naruto's shouting. His hopes that Naruto would play it smart had completely evaporated. Resigning himself to a boring one-on-one fight, he hopped out of his tree and lazily strolled over to Naruto, still reading Ika Ika Paradise. Think you can take me on by yourself? Naruto's palms began glowing with a sickly green light, the kanji Tsubasa glowing on his palms. I don't need teammates to beat you. Not when I have this. Clapping his hands together, the green light began to form a summoning formula in mid-air. Well, that's new, Kakashi thought as the ring in Naruto's left eye began to glow with a silvery light. The Uzu no Tsubasa appeared in a puff of smoke, grabbing it out of the air. Naruto charged Kakashi. Well, he's not bad with it, still boring though. Kakashi had dodged several slashes and a thrust or two, with minimal effort while still reading his book. Naruto, you have to do better than that if you want to win. How about this? Naruto swung his weapon at Kakashi's head. Sighing, Kakashi ducked the blow easily. You already tried. Kakashi almost missed Hinata aiming a kick at his head. Oh, either she saw the opening and decided to take advantage of it, or they were working together for a while, leaning out of the way. He expected the kick to sail harmless past his ear. Instead, he felt ninja wire wrap around his arm and pull him towards Hinata's oncoming foot. Huh. Well played, Sasuke. Kakashi thought after the blow connected. But before Hinata or Naruto could attempt to grab a bell, Kakashi yanked the wire still wrapped around his arm, causing Sasuke to come crashing into Hinata. Maybe you kids have some talent after all, Kakashi said while he put his book away. Well, don't just stand there. Bring it. Once again, Naruto charged in head first, his blades whirling around him like a tornado. This time Kakashi saw his goal. He was forcing Kakashi to keep his attention focused on him while Hinata and Sasuke got into their positions. Dodging a slash, Kakashi turned to intercept Hinata's attempted Juken strike to his lower back, but as soon as his focus was off Naruto, Sasuke wrapped his leg with ninja wire and pulled, and with his turn slowed. Hinata managed to hit his thigh with her attack. His turn slowed. Then Naruto sped up his attacks, managing to graze Kakashi's side, and forcing him to turn his attention back to Naruto and Sasuke, who were working together seamlessly now. Every time Sasuke managed to get him with his wires, Naruto would land a blow, not a major blow, even bound. Kakashi was too fast for that, more of a scratch, but combined with Hinata's Juken strikes, he was slowing down. After Hinata's fingers brushed the bells for the third time in 10 minutes, Kakashi realized that they were going to win. And he couldn't live with himself if 3 genin managed to beat him. Sighing, he managed to break away from the melee, but as soon as his feet touched the ground again, he heard Sasuke and Naruto cry out. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Fuden. Daitapa. Kakashi's lone visible eye widened in shock at the size of the fireball. He barely managed to carry me out of the blast zone in time. I can't believe I'm doing this against genin, Kakashi said as he lifted his Hitai to reveal his Sharingan. But, you leave me no choice if I don't want to kill you. Once again the 3 of them charged Kakashi. But with his Sharingan's near prescient abilities, avoiding all of their blows became a piece of cake. The formerly complex series of weaving spins that Naruto used in his attacks became simple slashes. Without the distraction of Naruto's blades, it was child's play to dodge Sasuke's wires. And without both of the screening her strikes, Kakashi could beat Hinata with one finger. Damn it. Naruto was sweating bullets. Oi, duck butt, why can't you do that yet? The Sharingan has to be unlocked to use. I haven't managed to unlock mine yet, I'm not sure why. There's no definitive way to unlock it. My brother's unlocked as soon as he put any chakra into his eyes. I've tried almost everything in the clan records. Short of genuine life-threatening injuries, that is. Panting, Hinata said, everyone in my clan is born with the ability to use their eyes. It must have been hard for your clan. Before resuming her attacks, my right eye unlocked when I was almost murdered by a drunken mob, but my left eye didn't, the toads. Naruto's left eye began to glow as he prepared to summon the toads to help. Oh no, you don't. Kakashi rushed Naruto, landing his first real offensive maneuver by punching Naruto, disrupting his concentration. Kakashi followed his punch with a chop to the back of Naruto's head, knocking the blonde out. Naruto. Both Hinata and, surprisingly, Sasuke shouted as he hit the floor, unmoving, their reactions past that couldn't be more different. Sasuke went cold with rage, his move precise and lethal. Hinata, on the other hand, was furious. Her attacks lost the timidity they had earlier, coming in fast and furious, hands glowing from the amount of chakra she was pushing through them. But Hinata didn't have the boy's ridiculous levels of stamina, and was clearly tiring, but the few hits she managed to land before passing out hurt. After she knocked herself out from acute chakra exhaustion, fighting Sasuke was a piece of cake. Blocking Sasuke's last attack, Kakashi countered with a kick that sent him crashing into a tree. Sighing tiredly as he lowered his Hitai-8 back over his eye, Kakashi almost missed Sasuke finishing the hand seals for his Kaden Gokaku. Kakashi avoided it by using the Doden Mogaragakure no Jutsu, Earth Release, hiding like a mole technique. Panting tiredly, Sasuke said, damn it, where'd he go? Looking around, he thought, above. To the left. He felt a hand grab his ankle. Doden Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Style. Double Suicide Decapitation Technique, Earth Style Headhunter Technique. Kakashi pulled him underground, leaving only his head above ground. I'll see you later, kid. Kakashi said. He went off to tie up Hinata and Naruto. Hinata woke to the sound of an alarm ringing. Finally awake, Hinata. Sasuke's voice came from the ground to he left. Do you have any idea how boring it is to be buried up to your neck for an hour? Wymit tied up as Sasuke-san. Hinata was cocooned in ropes, tied to a training post. Because Kakashi wanted to bugger off somewhere instead of risking one of you two waking up and letting me out. Just then Kakashi strolled up carrying 3 large bentos. I guess I'm just going to have to eat all 3 of these in front of you. I'm not hungry. IIH had a nice breakfast, sensei. Oh, and why did you eat when I told you not to? The air around Kakashi seemed to get colder, the lights seemed to dim and all sound died. Because I told them to, Kakashi Oji-san. The smell of food had woken Naruto. And you only told us that we would throw up if we ate. Well, I really do hate having to say this to you guys. Kakashi looked sad, but after what you 3 did, Kakashi drew things out as long as he could, relishing the looks of defeat as long as he could. You all pass. Congratulations. Kakashi gave the 3 of them one of his infamous eye smiles. You 3 showed exceptional teamwork. I'm very proud of you. But tell me, which of the 3 of you would have stayed back if I wasn't lying? The 3 of them shared a look. Grinning like a madman, Naruto said, ooh, I can work with that. Okay, here's what we do. Naruto said, I'll do my best to keep him occupied with my Uzu no Tsubasa. Wait, you're what? Fishcake? Sasuke was confused. He wondered what wings Naruto was talking about. Oh, I completely forgot to show you guys here, look at this. Naruto clapped his hands together, left eye glowing, and the green summoning formula wrote itself in the air. Grabbing his overlarge staff sword and giving in a twirl over his head, Naruto continued, this is the Uzu no Tsubasa, ancient weapon that technically belongs to my clan, see along the blades. Those seals are in the traditional Uzumaki style. Naruto pointed to the seal formulas etched along the flat of the blade. As I was saying, I'll use this to keep Kakashi distracted. He tossed Sasuke 3 spools of ninja wire. I've seen what you do with ninja wire when you think no one is watching you, Sasuke. I know you have a lot of talent with this stuff. Use this to try to bind his arms or legs, slow him down so there's a chance we can get a bell. Hinata, you use your Juken strikes to mess with his legs, make it as hard for him to move as you can. I'll try to cut off the bells. Hinata, you grab them if you can. I'll stay back if I have to. And no, Naruto-kun, I'll stay back. It doesn't matter, Hinata-chan, if he actually sends one of us back, I'm going with them. As much as it pains me to agree with Fishcake, if he actually wants to destroy whatever potential for teamwork, he shouldn't be a Jonin sensei. I'll stay too. So either we all pass or none of us do, duck butt. What about your vengeance? Sasuke shrugged, it can wait a year. Naruto's jaw dropped. Who are you and what have you done with the real Uchiha, Sasuke? Annoyed, Sasuke said, I've grown more sparring with you than I ever did before. Besides, he looks lazy. I bet I could learn more on my own than with him. All of us, they said in unison. Konoha, 12 months, 12 days ago. They arrived at training ground 2.5 hours after Kakashi said to arrive, and they still got there before him. So what do you think he's going to make us do? Sasuke asked Naruto. If it's 3 weeks of teamwork exercises, I'm going to break my foot off in. And Naruto-kun, he's coming. Hinata interrupted Naruto before he could really get started. Well, Naruto, you're right. Normally I would give you 3 weeks of team building exercises before I even allowed you 1D rank, but after what you guys showed me yesterday, I think it's safe to skip those for now. We still will go over some advanced teamwork and tactics exercises, but for now those are the side dishes. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out 4 slips of paper, handing one out to each of them and keeping one for himself before saying, Naruto already knows what these are, but I figured an extra demonstration wouldn't hurt. All you have to do is channel your chakra into it like this. First, Kakashi's paper crumpled itself, and then it got noticeably darker, before finally it crumbled away, turning into rather soggy dust. That reaction shows I have a natural affinity for lightning, water and earth. I am one of the rare 3 natural affinity ninja. Most ninja only have 1, 2 is less common than 1 but more common than 3. Naruto, if you please. Naruto channeled his chakra into the paper. First it shredded itself, then as it was floating to the ground the paper darkened greatly, before crumpling itself into little paper balls. Heh, oops, mine's a little overreactive. Naruto sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. Hinata bent down to pick up one of the little balls, it's soaking wet. Naruto is another of the rare 3-element ninjas, his are wind, water, and lightning. Kakashi turned to Sasuke, your turn. Sasuke's crumpled, his reaction nowhere near as severe as Naruto's or even Kakashi's. A second later it burst into flame. Ooh, an Uchiha with a primary element other than fire. This'll be fun. If you're a good boy, I might actually teach you my Chidori. Kakashi was rubbing his hands together for a probable chance to pass on his 1 original techniques. Maybe teaching the Uchiha would be fun after all. Finally he gestured to Hinata. Her paper darkened noticeably, almost as much as Naruto's before slowly crumbling away. 2-element ninjas. Kakashi was grinning under his mask. This group had to be the most talent gathered in one place since the Sannin themselves. Yours are water and earth, although your earth chakra is very weak. We'll have to work on that. Kakashi thought for a moment, before saying out loud, well, I know Naruto already knows how to do this, but it's good exercise anyways. So can either of you climb trees without your hands? Seeing the confused looks on their faces, Kakashi gestured to Naruto, another demonstration please. Rolling his eyes at his sensei's laziness, Naruto took a casual stroll up the side of the tree, then out on the underside of the branch. There, is that good enough for you? Nodding his head, Kakashi went on, once you master this, you will move on to water walking. However, this is an important exercise, all of you. Yes, you too, Naruto, will practice tree climbing for an hour every morning, followed by an hour of water walking, once you master it. After you can tree climb for an hour and then water walk for another hour, I will teach you each a single jutsu from your element type and you will practice that until you have it down flawlessly. Naruto, I believe it's time for you to begin working on seal-less jutsu, using the ones you already know. Master those and I have permission from Jiraiya to teach you something cool. Now I have stuff to do for the next 5 hours, if you have any questions ask Naruto. Kakashi turned to leave, but was stopped by Naruto. Oi! You lazy bum. You haven't told me how to do seal-less jutsu. Oops. Kakashi pretended to be embarrassed for a moment. Alright. Just drop the first hand sign in the jutsu, practice it that way until you have it down, then drop the next. It'll never be as strong seal-less as it is with seals. But after you master it, each seal you use will make the jutsu stronger. Use all of them and it'll be almost 3 times as strong. Later. Not wanting to be stopped again, Kakashi shunshined away. I can't believe he just, well, actually considering I've known him for 4 years I can believe he just did that, but still. Naruto was fuming at being left to teach Hinata and Sasuke by himself. Sighing to himself, he walked up to a tree. Okay, Jiraiya and Kakashi recommend running up the tree to get started and figuring out how much chakra to use by falling on you repeatedly. If you do that, you'll be at it for hours just trying to figure out how much chakra to use. So if you want my advice, focus chakra onto your palms, it's a lot easier to control that way. Once you figure out the optimal amount of chakra, then try to recreate that with your feet. Half an hour later, Hinata was the first to get it right and managed to climb to the top. Sasuke on the other hand seemed to be getting nowhere. Damn it. What am I doing wrong? After a spectacularly failed attempt at getting his palm to stick to the tree, he had channeled so much chakra into his palm he had actually knocked it over. Sasuke felt like giving up. Sasuke. Naruto was currently walking up and down the tree with a variety of odd objects stuck to him. I told you you're using too much chakra. Seeing the gloomy expression on his rival's face, Naruto decided to cheer him up a bit. Hey duck butt. You're still learning faster than I did. It took me 3 weeks to get as far as Hinata, and for the first 2 I was making a worse mess than you are. In fact, I know exactly what your problem is. Sasuke looked up hopefully. Please tell me. You're too strong. You have a lot of chakra like me. Well, nowhere near as much chakra as I do. I have almost 5 times what Ero-sensei has, but still you have a ton. You realize that no one our age should be able to use the Kaden Gokaku no Jutsu, right? I can't tell you how much chakra to use, because it's different for each person, but keep at it. Naruto went back to walking up and down the tree. A few minutes later, Hinata, whose tree was on Naruto's other side, asked, Naruto-kun, why do you have things stuck to yourself? I'm technically doing a more advanced exercise. With my ludicrous amount of chakra, I have to work a lot harder just to maintain what I have. The objects are all different sizes, shape and weight, so each needs a different amount of chakra to stick. It's almost as hard as making a Rasengan. Sasuke, who had begun trying to climb his tree, interrupted, a what? Oh, oops. Naruto looked guilty. Pretend I didn't say anything. Please. I'm not really supposed to tell anyone about it. Fishcake. Tell us. Why yes. Please tell us, Naruto-kun. Promise you won't tell anyone else. Seeing his teammates nod, Naruto relented. The Rasengan was the Yondaime Hokage's signature attack. It's the epitome of shape transformation, and so damn hard that it takes 2 of me to do it right now. My chakra control still isn't good enough to do it one-handed. Seeing how his hour of tree walking was up, Naruto jumped off the tree and walked towards the stream that divided Training Ground 7 from his personal training ground. I'll show it to you later. I have more exercises to do before I move on to jutsu practice. Sasuke finally managed to get the tree walking exercise down after 4 hours of struggling. He still wasn't perfect, but he could go for about 10 minutes before he would slip or launch himself off of the tree. Hinata could tree walk for about 20 minutes, but afterwards she would need half an hour of rest. Naruto, however, still hadn't managed to form a single Fuden Datapa without the first hand seal. This is so hard, he grumbled. I should really have my clones do this for me. Sasuke blinked. He'd seen Naruto struggling for the better part of 2 hours with a jutsu he had practiced daily for 4 years and was honestly confused why he hadn't already used his clones. Naruto, is there a reason you haven't used your clones yet? Naruto looked a bit sheepish. Well, it's not fair to you two if I use my Kage Bunshin. Sighing at Naruto's idiocy, Sasuke jumped off his tree. Skipping the first hand seal, he began making the hand seal for his fireball, Kato, Gokaku no Jutsu. He blew an admittedly small fireball out at the target that Naruto had been using. Fishcake, you need all the help you can get. Laughing inside at Naruto's dumbstruck face, Sasuke went back to practice. When Kakashi finally came back, he saw 400 Narutos all practicing the Fuden Datapa, with the real Naruto acting as traffic controller, dispelling and reforming the clones in groups of 5 every 10 seconds. How's it going, guys? He said while ducking a haul of kunai thrown at him by his students. Made any progress on the tree walking? No thanks to you, Kakashi, Sasuke grumbled. Hinata-chan got it done in half an hour. She doesn't have the reserves to keep walking for more than 20 minutes though. Naruto chimed in, his praise making Hinata blush crimson. Next we'll do some taijutsu exercises, so I can see what you need to work on. I have a good idea of what Hinata needs from yesterday's fight, but you two, he said pointing to Sasuke and Naruto, didn't use much taijutsu, so I need more data to find where you need more work. After that we'll do some genjutsu training, and Naruto, I know you're terrible at genjutsu. Tomorrow we'll start by doing 2 hours of chakra control exercises, which by the way Hinata will help enlarge your chakra reserves. Then it's 2 hours of physical training, 3 hours of taijutsu practice, the last hour will cycle each day will be something different. Once you master tree walking and water walking and have sufficient chakra to do both for 2 hours. The training time will increase by 2 hours, for ninjutsu practice. I expect all of you to keep up with your personal training programs, I can't teach you everything. Dismissed. Not risking them delaying him this time, Kakashi shunshined away. I don't know about you two, but I'm starving. Who wants to grab a bite to eat with me? I know the best place for ramen in the whole town. Sure. Why not fishcake? I'd love to, Naruto-kun. Naruto took them to his little piece of heaven, Ramen Ichiraku. Hey old man, I finally became a ninja. Naruto shouted as he entered the ramen stand. Tsuki was tending the stove, while Ayame, his daughter, cleaned the bar. Oh, and are these two your teammates? This is Hinata-chan, and the guy who looks like a duck landed on his head is Sasuke. I'll have the usual, what do you two want? I don't know, fishcake, I'll have what you're having, I guess. As soon as he finished his sentence, both the old man and his daughter burst out laughing. Only an Akamichi can keep up with him when it comes to ramen. How about a nice bowl of shrimp ramen? Sasuke shrugged. Fine, I guess. I'll have AP pork ramen. Before they were halfway done with their first bowl, Naruto was on his fifth. Stopping to breathe, Naruto said, "You did good today, Hinata-chan. At this rate you'll be the best kunoichi in our village by the end of the year." Naruto paused momentarily to destroy another 3 bowls of ramen, and Sasuke, you learned how to tree walk a lot faster than I did, I'm so jealous. Thank you, Naruto-kun. The praise almost made her fall out of her chair. Why, you're really strong, Naruto. So Naruto, you going to show us that jutsu like you promised? Sasuke asked while watching Naruto polish off his 15th bowl of ramen. Come with me. Naruto led them to Training Ground Zero, which was still covered with Naruto clones. You guys need to wait until I'm done dispelling these guys, okay? Naruto sat down in a meditative pose and began dispelling his clones in groups of 20. Half an hour later he dispelled the last clone. Standing up and stretching, he summoned a single clone, Placing his palm face up, he began to form the Rasengan. The clone quickly placed his hands over it and finished the transformation. It's so pretty. Hinata was entranced by the grapefruit-sized ball of swirling blue chakra. You did that with no seals? No, it's pure chakra manipulation. Once I actually master it, I'll be able to form it one-handed. And so it went. For a month and a half they did nothing but training. By the end of the month Naruto could do his Fuden Daitapa with just the last hand seal. Sasuke learned the Raiden Seidenki Shogeki, as well as learned how to do his fireball jutsu with just 2 seals. Hinata made the most progress. During her spare time, apparently she worked hard at the chakra control exercises, quickly increasing her reserves, and once Kakashi taught her Subin, she took to it like a duck to water. The control she had over her water jutsu, she had learned some on her own even, was such that Kakashi raved to his fellow Jonin that he was training a second Nadaime Hokage. The next 2 months were spent doing D-ranked missions and working on advanced tactics and teamwork and trust-building exercises. Naruto, however, had enough of the boring D ranks, and the next time he saw the Hokage, he was going to give him a piece of his mind. Konoha, 9 months, 25 days ago. I've had enough. Naruto shouted at the Hokage, D ranks are boring and pointless. Give us a real mission.